So my name is Tena, and for almost 2 decades, I've been working in content. So that basically means that for most of my adult life, if not whole, my livelihood has depended on content actually performing. I think that just the amount of that stress makes me kind of qualified to give this talk. But if you're stressed about it as well, I hope this will help alleviate some of it and give you some ideas how to help your content do its job. So I work at Infobip. Show hands, who knows what Infobip is? Okay, just Infobip people, nice. Okay, Infobip is basically a global communications platform. So what it means is that when there is a brand trying to communicate with a consumer or a customer, basically there's probably some Infobip going on. If you get a message from your Uber that your driver is here, probably Infobip. If you get your 2FA via call or SMS, could be Infobip. If you get some email notification about your car to Infobip, you get the drift, what it's all about. There are also a lot of ways to interact with our products. We have some no-code products, low-code products, APIs, some telecoms partnerships, basically a really huge array of things to do with Infobip. Why I'm telling you this is because that's great if you're a customer, but if you're working in Infobip and you're trying to explain this really wide and different array of products to really different audiences, that gets kind of difficult. Luckily, not all of that is my job, but I do work in developer content. So basically, we produce a lot of content that helps developers interact with our content and know what Infobip is. Maybe we're not doing such a good job, judging by the raise of hands here, but we'll try harder. So basically, this is what we call our Infobip developer content universe. We have different venues that we tested out. We have our docs and tutorials, of course, everybody has that. There is the engineering hub blog, which is basically kind of more employer branding, but also about technology and engineering culture in Infobip. We have Developer Hub, which is additional resources for developers. Startup Tribe, which is not something my team does, but is super important. And a podcast, because everyone has a podcast, Scale Up and Up. And then we have something a bit different, but not unheard of. That's the Shift Mag. It's actually editorially independent magazine for developers, but owned and powered by Infobip. So why I'm telling you this is because I'm trying to kind of sum up our learnings from all these different venues and platforms and show you what worked for us, what didn't, in really practical terms. So what usually happens with content, and a lot of people have mentioned this before in their talks, especially when talking about strategy. People get so wound up in how to create content, how to choose a good topic, how to get it out there, that when it's published, it's just like, phew, I'm done. But you're not. You're basically just halfway there. Sometimes just publishing is fine. Has anyone seen Field of Dreams? Hands up. Okay, I see a bit of a generational divide here. I'm on the older side, expected, but still hurts. Okay, so basically, those of you who haven't, Kevin Costner builds basically a baseball field because the voice tells him to. And the voice keeps telling it, if you build it, they will come. It's kind of like that often with content, like if you publish it, they will come. And that's kind of a more realistic scenario than a baseball field in the middle of a cornfield. Because you publish something, like we have this nice little tutorial here, very basic piece of content. We do some basic SEO. And if someone Googles how to build a pre-support chatbot with Infobip, they're going to find this. And this little guy is going to do his job. Such a good piece of content. But here's the thing. Even this very, very basic piece of content can do so much more. It can basically tell you, okay, how to do this. It can tell you that we have a product called Answers. It can tell you what the hell Answers is, because it's not self-explanatory. It can tell you, you can see at a glance how easy or difficult it is to use our product. You can see what our platform looks like, because you have to register to see it. So even the basic piece of content can do so much more than just be a tutorial and show how to do something. There are basically two main paths to do that. One is to syndicate and one is to distribute. I know probably all of you distribute your content in one way or another, but how many of you syndicate? Hands? Okay, how many of you know what syndication is? Okay, cool. So basically, syndication is publishing your own content, but on someone else's platform, on a venue that you do not own. Click. So this can be either some publishing platform like a Medium or a Substack or Dev2, or basically anything where you have to publish your content there and it's hosted there. It can be like a media, so maybe someone writes a blog post or an article from your company, but it's not published on your company blog. You submit it to some kind of developer media like ShiftMag, our own self-promotion here, or Newsstack, or basically, I don't know, Container Journal, or anything here. And then you have something that you're probably already doing, but just don't know it's syndication. It's when you host your content on a specific platform like YouTube or Transistor for podcasts or something like that. So probably a lot of you are doing syndication, just don't know the definition. So why to do it? The first reason is, of course, to get a wider audience, and not only a wider audience, but a different audience. The sad truth is, when something is published on your corporate website or startup website, no matter how fun your startup is, it's always going to get a lower reach and lower engagement than something that's published on an independent media. That's just the sad truth. So here we have 2 pieces of content published on the Newsstack and ShiftMag. They both had 20,000 reads plus, still generating with no advertising. If they were published on one of our blogs, that number would have been a lot lower. That's the sad truth. So if you want to get a wider reach, maybe some brand recognition, maybe get a point across, then you go through some kind of third-party platform or a media. The really fun thing is that a lot of people don't know, if you publish it on some kind of a developer media, lots of them have a policy where you can republish it on your blog. It usually just takes like 10 days, or you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks, and you have to leave a canonical link, which means that this is a repost for SEO purposes. But it's kind of a way to both, have your cake and eat it too. And also they're super, they like to get developer content because their workers are journalists. And they're very good at what they do, but they do appreciate a first-person perspective. Click. Okay. One of the reasons we also syndicate our content is because our engineers do a lot of writing, and they really like to see that something they've written has been read by tens of thousands of people, or that their name is in a magazine that they read or another media venue. So it's not really an OKR or KPI, but it makes people you work with happy, so good reason to do it. Also, sometimes you have the platform benefits like the algorithms, the fact that these platforms already have their own audiences, the fact that they're optimized better than maybe you would know. I think Kevin had a talk about video strategy yesterday, and they decided to host on their own platform, so maybe you can catch him later for that perspective. Sometimes a really stupid reason, but a good one, is that you have literally nowhere else to put it. So in the company I worked for before, we wanted to start the developer blog. We didn't want to use resources, developer resources to build it, even though it was a developer agency. So we just, stuck some Medium into there, and it worked. We also did this like 3 years ago, engineering handbook for Infobip. Our website was being redesigned, and they were like, just wait for us to publish it until we're done with the redesign. And basically, we just went to Gitbook and published it there, and it has been gathering a metric ton, basically, of traffic, and people just getting information about Infobip, and it would have been sitting there waiting. Sometimes also you want to get some, idea across, your point across, you want to reach a wider audience, you want to get some brand recognition. And this might sound dangerous to like PR. That's because it is. The point I'm always trying to get across is that, other departments are your friends. PR in technical companies has a job that's kind of difficult. They're not technical experts, but they still have to write about technical topics that they're not that good at, maybe, or they don't have the insight that you have. But they do have the budgets, and they do have to spend them, and they do have to publish. And, marketing, PR, employer branding, those can all be your best friends. They just maybe don't know it yet. Okay, so if it has all these benefits, why not use syndication? Why does anyone distribute? Well, the first thing is not all content is meant to be syndicated. If it's like super brand specific, heavily branded, syndication is not a good way to go. Or if it's really product related, like a tutorial, that's probably best hosted on your site. Then there's less traffic going to your websites. That depends on your goals. Last year we did a lot of syndication, but this year we have a deal with our web team that we're trying to bring more traffic to our sites. Then you can, the important thing is that you also have no control over these platforms. They can change their algorithms, they can change the way they interact with you, they can change the reach. This is something that happened if anyone ever worked in the media, especially in the last 10 years. At some point, all the media were using Facebook and social media as sources of traffic, and they basically forgone all other sources like newsletters and stuff like that. And then Facebook cut its reach, and everyone was in deep trouble. Okay, so the other path is distribution. You all kind of know that. Basically, when you distribute content, that means it's published somewhere, and you're using external channels to send it in different directions. You can also first syndicate and then distribute it from there. So distribution is not just tied to your own publishing venue. Oops. Okay, so whenever anyone starts a company or a media, it's usually this is the distribution starter pack, it's some social media and their own newsletter, which they may or may not abandon at some point. I would always suggest that whenever you start something, do please have your own newsletter base, however small it is, however slowly you're building it. It's literally the only channel of distribution that you will ever truly own. The others are great, use them, but have this, and it's always easier to build it from something than from the ground up. However, when it comes to developer content, these maybe not the best way to go. So here's the thing, I'm not talking about these social media as a way to interact with public, as a way for a brand to get their message across. I'm talking about them as sources of traffic. Facebook for us has been a very low source of traffic, and I mean that both in Infobip for developer content. Both in Infobip, and I was on the editorial team of a tech and developer media before Infobip, and Facebook did get some results, but it was never the main source. Instagram is good for some clips if you have a podcast, if you have some kind of video tutorials, it's fine for that. Obviously for anything textual, not that great. X is actually the only one that I think that really works well in mainstream media and developer content as well. And I think LinkedIn mostly depends on your company. For us, it works great for like small and medium businesses and stuff like that, but not really for developer content. So what I would suggest for dev content distribution starter pack, if you're just starting out, of course X, because it allows you some communication in the moment. You publish something, you share it right away, it allows interaction. From my experience, developers as a public don't just want to read something, they really want to interact with it. Fun fact, there was like research what kind of content performs best with developers, and the answer was that the best content is where people think that the person writing it is like 90% right but 10% wrong, and they get to correct them. So you need those interaction channels. My personal favorite and what worked best for our team in developer content was Reddit, both in advertising, we'll get to that later, and just in distributing. And Discord is also a good way to go if you already have a community in there. And it's like a dual benefit, because if you have a community, you always and you have some developer content, you always have a conversation starter to jump in there, and you also have an audience that's kind of already built. If you have to choose just one, okay, I would always suggest Reddit, because it has a really very, very, very active developer community, and I cannot overstate this. Although it's very active, it's not always very nice or positive. You're going to get some bad comments, but also you'd get some bad comments if you wrote the sky is blue, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. It has lots of specialized subreddits where you can participate. It's really easy to distribute. There is no process. You don't have to specifically edit your texts to make them perform better. It does yield great results for us. And the really fun thing is that there are many developers' newsletters that are basically browsing Reddit for content, and then they just pick it up and distribute it even further, so you get that nice second boost. So speaking of which, click. I really suck at this. Oh, okay. This was a slide where there were images of two newsletters. One was TLDR and the other was changelog. We both use them as sources of traffic a lot. When I say use them, well, basically they pick up our articles or we submit them and we get a lot of traffic from them. Newsletters are great because developers love independent newsletters. They trust them, they love to see themselves on there, and they also really read them. TLDR has like some 3 million subs, I think. Correct me, TLDR people, if I'm wrong. Changelog has somewhat less, I think a lot less, but it's also super engaging. A lot of developers read it and love it. Both great sources. And of course, there was like a little icon of your newsletter, which may not have 3 million subs, but again, I repeat, that is literally the only means of distribution you own. That list of people who agreed that they want to receive your content. So keep it going. Some things that didn't work for us, I'm not saying they will not work for you. I'm just saying that didn't work for us, so maybe you can try something else with them, try them differently. One was the Hacker News. So basically, Hacker News, there are a lot of articles out there how to post in Hacker News to get the conversation started and going. We tried to follow them. We didn't get the results we wanted. We did get some traffic out of it, but just, it's not that it didn't work good. It's just that the amount of effort we needed to put in and the amount of traffic we got was just not worth it. Kind of the same was with Daily Dev. I still think it's a really good site, but it's a really easy process to get your content out there, but a lot of content is like listicles, the ultimate way to do this, how to do this with that. It's not really a content we make or the format we like, so it would take a lot for us to transfer our own content into that, and the results just didn't back up the effort. That's fine. Maybe it works for you. Hopefully it does. What I did notice is they're kind of pivoting towards community building, and they have some really fun formats like challenges. I think our friends from Twilio are doing some of the challenges there, so maybe they want to share how that's working out. Okay, so basically, I showed you our little, developer content universe at Infobip, but in truth, it looks more like this. And these little icons on top change depending on what our goals are and what we want to do. But they're all really important because this is all organic traffic. So we haven't spent, $1 of advertising budget yet. Mostly because when we started out, we didn't have an advertising budget. But the fun thing is most of our team came from regional, independent, niche media. So that wasn't news to us. We were more like, you people have budgets? So basically trying to build traffic organic was pretty natural. But it's really nice if you have advertising budgets. It's really nice to spend it. The first money we got, we tried to test out what worked best for us. Again, this really depends on the type of your campaign, on the type of content, on who you're targeting, how well you do your message. But we try to do the same quality advertising on these 4 different channels. For us, LinkedIn and Daily Dev were kind of expensive, and we didn't get a lot of traffic out of them. We got more traffic out of Daily Dev than from LinkedIn. And that's kind of weird because LinkedIn really works for Infobip in other sectors like corporate and small and medium businesses, but for developer content, it just did not perform that well. Reddit was amazing. It was pretty inexpensive, and we got a lot of traffic from it and a lot of engagement. Not all of it good, but still, all of it appreciated. And Dev2 was also pretty good for us. If you're interested in the stats, we can talk later on. So, and there's also the 4th way. So that's amplifying. Does anyone know what amplifying is? Okay. So amplifying is basically, I think I mixed up with my slides. Never mind. So amplifying is basically using other people or other brands' clout to widen your own reach. So potential amplifiers they can be journalists, they can be media, they can be your own champions or potential champions that you already know about. But basically using someone who has either a bigger clout, but also maybe just not bigger, just different to get your point across. It's really easy to do that. So like if you have a podcast, you're probably already doing it. So you have guests who are probably more interesting than you. Maybe they have a bigger following, and basically they share whatever you post with them because people share stuff that they're in, and you get reach through their followers. It can also be if you have like a company you work with. Like this is a tool that we use at Infobip. Our developers love it. We're one of their biggest clients. They asked if they can do a case study with us. Basically, the only thing we had to do was for our developers to say how much they love it and how they use it. And basically, you know, the developers that use this tool are kind of learning also about Infobip. It's not like the greatest amount of traffic, but it is a different kind of audience. So I keep talking about how to get your content to perform, but the title of my talk was not how to get a high-performing content, because it was just the content that does its job. If you have a tutorial that has 100 views, and that's 100 people that know how to do something and didn't give up halfway, that's good. That little content did its job. When you get a hang of it, content can be quite quick and quite cheap. So say you have some kind of feature that kind of doesn't have a really good UI, people give up along the way, maybe they don't use the feature even if it's good for them. You know, content or a tutorial is a really cheap fix to that until, you know, you get to that on your roadmap and fix the fuzzy UI. So just because something doesn't have thousands of views doesn't mean that it's content that it's not doing your job. And also there are two types of contents, high-performing content. So one is that it goes like this, whoosh, because when you publish it, it gets all the views. It's maybe tied to something that's relevant. I don't know. Apple is talking about introducing RCS. You publish something about RCS, it's going to go like this. But there's also a content that's kind of evergreen. It's a long tail that you publish, and it has maybe 100 views this month, 100 views next month, and so on and so on and so on. And it will often outperform the really popular one. So just because something is not working right away does not mean that it's not working and that it's not good content. And that's it. Whew. Any questions? Okay.
I got you. You got it.
So we at Pieces have been trying to crack the Reddit code. Mm-hmm. How do you and so we're not, what type of content do you feel works best on Reddit? Because we've, doing responses like, hey, check this out, or we do some content that's kind of technical to see if that drives some interest, but it just doesn't seem to do very well, so.
Okay, so basically what we like to do, just back from our journalist days that we translated to Infobip, we like to do kind of a rounded campaigns. They don't have to be campaigns, they don't have to be paid. But so if you want to push your tutorial or something technical about how your product works, you just do a range of blogs or articles. First, something about the industry that you're in. Why, if you're doing something in security, then, what's the state of security? Then how to stop something in security that your product does. Then something about your product specifically, and then you tie it in with the tutorials. So it's never straight in the head. It's just trying to give a more rounded picture. I think it was also Kevin, I keep quoting Kevin, but he said that a person has to see something 7 times to get it in their head. And it's like that, you're approaching them just basically from all sides and trying to think, okay, how can I present this topic in 10 different ways and how to tie them all to each other.
And is this on your own subreddit or on just relevant subreddits type of thing?
No, mostly relevant subreddits.
Okay, cool, thanks.
That last part is like your own subreddit or or your own subreddit or different ones is you answered that part, but it's like, are you posting bits of the content or you're posting it somewhere, hosting it, and then you're going to that subreddit and saying, hey, we're talking about your example, like security on this article, or are you taking like bits and pieces of it and trying to like post that so it gets somebody interested and you say, hey, if you want to learn more, we wrote about it here. Like, what does that look like?
Oh my God, it's so much more simple on Reddit for now. So basically, you just slap it on. You post it and just people just stick onto it. For us, Reddit has been really low effort. So we don't even try to start a conversation. The conversation starts itself. We just share it. And also something that's stupid but works on Reddit and should not. So if you post the content and then it performs kind of well, and it's kind of a long tail or evergreen, you can repost it in 2 months and it will be fine as long as you don't overdo it. Sometimes it doesn't stick the first time and the second time it does. But yeah, so we love Reddit so much because it has been so low effort.
And it's just a new post, not like you're not jumping into a thread and posting. You're doing brand new posts.
It's just a brand new post, yeah.
Okay. And then you had the starter pack of the 3, Twitter, Reddit, Discord. Is that those are platforms just to say, hey, it's out there? Like it's just like a speakerphone for you to say that it's available?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's basically what distribution is, just, throwing it out there.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Is there like a research phase you do before posting into these, like whether it's Reddit or Twitter, like before you post it in these spaces, or are you just posting it, see how it does, and then make a decision from there?
The second one. Personally, from my experience, and I worked for media, for corporate, for startups, for basically I've approached content from all sides, and the only research that gives you actual results is just doing it. And sometimes it's going to go badly, sometimes you're going to get some backlash and everyone's going to forget it in like a week. It's fine. If you try it, it doesn't perform, oh well, you have some new information.
You've shared some great tips on distribution and syndication. Can you share some best practices on how to publish the content, what gets the most attention, what increases readability, how does it help the developers most?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it's always choosing the right topic, right? So it depends what kind of content it is. If it's like the type of content that's a tutorial or something super related to your product, then what we usually do is ask the developers. We have awesome engineers in Infobip, and they really care about the products they're building. So we're like, what's really fuzzy about our products? Where do you need most help? What's not working? What features are not being used? Also, you have probably all the user data you see where they're falling off, when they're just not using it the way you want them to. So that's always a good starting point because it's something people need. And if you're looking for a content that has like a wider reach, like you want tens of thousands of reads, it's kind of more generalish. Well, we also ask our developers. So here's what we do. We have developer workshops where our developers come and they have a free topic. They can write about whatever they want. And they kind of discuss, everyone makes 3 topics and they discuss their own topics and why they want to write about them. And they're usually like, it's like feeling the pulse of our audience, which are also developers. Sometimes I have been working with developer content and developers for a long time, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a weird topic, that's not going to work, and then it just, skyrockets. And I'm like, how did this happen? So if you have a pool of developers, do use them, ask them about their opinions, get them to write it, help them to write it, enable them. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's how you get most topics that resonate. The most popular topics on Shift Mag, which is basically like, an independent magazine, we have journalists and everything. We do research about what topics are going on right now, what everyone is talking about, and things that usually blow up are things our engineers write, the topics they pick.
Anyone else? All right, Tena, thank you so much.